This is a story about roles. In her most perfect state, a woman might be the best daughter, the best lover, the best wife, the best mother, and embody many other roles her social status brings. But most of the time, we don't get to choose. If you could only excel at one, which role would you pick? The ancient Chinese empress we're talking about today was no political powerhouse, nor was she a legendary beauty. She spent her entire life choosing to play just one of these roles. But the price she paid was perhaps everything else. Daughter, the year is 75 BC. The Han Dynasty is nearly 150 years old. In the capital, Chang'an, beyond the towering Weiyang Palace and the magnificent Changlei and Changshin palaces, lived over 100,000 ordinary citizens. They resided either in the alleys outside the palace walls or in the tomb cities in the suburbs of Chang'an. These tomb cities were small towns built around the mausoleums of past emperors. Since the dynasty's founding, every emperor had built a grand tomb in the suburbs and forcibly relocated provincial aristocrats and powerful clans to live around it for easier management and surveillance. This was the famous tomb relocation policy. Many people were thus moved to the vicinity of Chang'an, and many small towns arose from this. North of Chang'an, on the Xianyang Plateau by the Wei River, lay the tombs of the dynasty's founder, Emperor Liu Bang, and his empress Lu Ji, the famous Han Changling Mausoleum. Besides the imperial couple, Changling also housed the attached tombs of many founding heroes. Their descendants mostly settled and lived in the Changling tomb city. Among them was a middle-aged man named Wang Fengguang. It was said his ancestors were from the same hometown as Liu Bang and were among the founding heroes, granted the title of Marquis within the Passes and relocated to Changling. However, Marquis within the Passes was a hollow title with no fiefdom and could not be inherited. Thus, the family soon fell into decline. By Wang Fengguang's time, he held no title and no official post. Based on historical records, it can be inferred that his specialty and means of livelihood was singular: cockfighting. Cockfighting was a popular form of entertainment in the Han Dynasty, inevitably involving gambling, and thus was widely beloved. Wang Fengguang may have been skilled at raising champion cockerels, or perhaps at organizing matches. But either way, it was not a profession that brought prestige. And his troubles didn't end there. He had a teenage daughter, long past the age for marriage discussions. But for 5 consecutive matches he arranged for her, the prospective fiancé would die before the wedding could take place. As the news spread, everyone said his daughter was a husband jinx. No more suitors came to their door. Confidante? The protagonist of our story is this young woman of the Wang family. The histories do not even record her given name, a rare omission for someone of her later status, which perfectly illustrates how ordinary and common her origins were. In that year, a friend of her father's got married. This man, named Liu Bingyi, was a spirited 16-year-old youth, though a faint, indefinable sorrow lingered in his brow. He was an unlikely friend her father had made through cockfighting, rumored to be an imperial descendant, and he even held the title of Marquis within the Passes. But his past seemed to be a mystery or a taboo, never spoken of. And in a capital 150 years after the dynasty's founding, imperial descendants were as common as fish in the sea, nothing rare. Liu Bingyi's bride was also a friend of the Wang family, the daughter of an aide to the director of the palace prison. The Yeting, or palace prison, was the area that housed convict palace staff and low-ranking attendants. The current director was this mysterious Liu Bingyi's legal guardian. When the director proposed the match to his subordinate, Xu Guanghan, it was met with fierce opposition from Xu's wife. In a turn of fate somewhat similar to the Wang girls, Xu Guanghan's daughter had also been engaged before, only for her fiancé to die before the wedding. Her mother had privately consulted a fortune teller and was told her daughter was destined for immense wealth and nobility. With such a prophecy, how could she agree to marry her daughter to this insignificant imperial grandson? In truth, one cannot blame the mother for being materialistic. In fact, the director had first wanted to marry his own daughter to Liu Bingyi, but was met with strong opposition from his own younger brother, the powerful general of chariots and cavalry Zhang Anxi, who believed that such a down-and-out imperial descendant was unworthy of a general's family. In the end, after much persuasion, the director finally convinced the Xu family to marry their 14 or 15-year-old daughter, Xu Pingjun, to Liu Bingyi. The following year, they had their first child, a son. From the available records, we only know that the Wang and Shu families were acquainted. We cannot determine if the Wang girl was close with Shu Pingjun, who was of a similar age, nor can we infer if she had already met Liu Bingyi by this time. But it doesn't matter. The wheels of fate were turning fast, and the threads of their 3 lives were about to become inextricably tangled. Consort, shortly after Liu Bingyi and Shu Pingjun's son was born, in April of 74 BC, the sickly emperor died suddenly. The powerful court ministers chose the 19-year-old Prince of Changyi to inherit the throne, but were so displeased with his conduct that they deposed him after just 27 days and sent him back to his fiefdom. Next, the powerful ministers chose their perfect puppet, Liu Bingyi. Perhaps it was only then that the Wang girl learned Liu Bingyi's true identity and past. He was the great-grandson of the great Emperor Wu, the grandson of the crown prince. But he had been caught in the witchcraft calamity just after his birth. His grandparents, parents, and all his siblings were executed. Only the infant Bingyi was saved, secretly protected in the imperial prison by officials loyal to the crown prince. He was pardoned at the age of 5 and raised by his grandmother's family. While other imperial descendants lived lives of drunken luxury, he grew up in the streets of Chang'an and the fields of the South Garden, experiencing the hardships of the lower classes. An orphan with no family and no power base, Liu Bingyi was chosen to be the new emperor. The powerful ministers not only chose him, they also wanted to marry him to the daughter of the most powerful man in the court, Guang. But Liu Bingyi issued an edict famous in Chinese history. "When I was a humble man," he said, "I had a beloved old sword that I never parted with. Now that I am emperor, this sword remains in my old home. Can any of you, my loyal ministers, retrieve this sword for me?" All the officials understood. The new emperor was refusing the powerful minister's daughter and wanted to make his commoner wife, Shu Pingjun, the empress. This is the origin of the famous idiom, the old sword, a story of deep affection. The ministers praised the emperor's virtue and supported his decision. The powerful minister had to temporarily give up. And so, in that year, the Liu Bingyi, the Wang girl, Nu became the emperor. The Shu Pingjun, she Nu became the empress. And she herself, the history's record, was chosen to enter the palace as one of his consorts that same year. From then on, she would be known as Jieyu Wang, Lady Wang. Helper? The histories don't say why Liu Bingyi took the daughter of his old friend as a consort. Some historians believe it may have been out of a desire to care for his old friend. After all, a cockfighter like Wang Fengguang clearly could not become a close aide or a pillar of the empire. Rewarding him through a marital tie was the only way. Looking at later records, Liu Bingyi did not show excessive favor to Wang's daughter, so the most likely reason was not that the father was ennobled through the daughter, but that the daughter was honored for the father's sake. We can even speculate that Liu Bingyi took the Wang girl as a consort to give his own empress, Shu Pingjun, who also had no allies in the court and palace, at least one helper she could trust and rely on. But Liu Bingyi's painstaking efforts did not help his beloved Shu Pingjun win the palace wars. 3 years later, in a plot to make her own daughter empress, the powerful minister Guang's wife bribed a doctor to poison the commoner empress during childbirth. Although Guang only learned the truth afterward and was shocked by his wife's audacity, he still chose to cover it up. Arguing that the position of empress could not remain vacant, he had his daughter, Zhengjun, installed as the new empress. We do not know if Liu Bingyi knew the truth at the time. We only know that Guang's wife and the new Empress Huo did not stop there, but took a more vicious step. When Liu Bingyi named Shu Pingjun's only son as the crown prince, Guang's wife was furious. She was heard to say, "How can the son of a commoner be the crown prince?" and instructed her daughter to find an opportunity to poison the boy. Fortunately, the death of his first wife had made Liu Bingyi vigilant. He assigned loyal attendants to the crown prince, never letting him be alone with outsiders or eat any food of unknown origin. Empress Huo summoned the young prince several times with the intent to poison him, but never succeeded. Thus he survived the treacherous palace intrigues. Mother? Several years later, the powerful minister Guang finally died. Now in full control of the government, Liu Bingyi, after meticulous planning, purged the entire Huo clan for treason in 66 BC. Huo Guang's wife, who had poisoned Empress Chu, was executed by being cut in half at the waist, and Empress Huo was deposed and confined to a cold palace. The position of empress was vacant once more. By now, Liu Bingyi had several favored consorts who had borne him several children, including 4 sons. By conventional reasoning, the new empress should have been chosen from among these favored consorts who had produced heirs. But Liu Bingyi once again made a surprising decision. It is said that on her deathbed, the dying empress Zhu Pingjun had told the emperor 3 things: that her head throbbed and the medicine might be poisoned, that after her death, he must protect their only son, and that she wished to be buried in the South Garden, a place on the southern outskirts of Chang'an where they had often walked together before she entered the palace. "I will wait for you in the South Garden," was Zhu Pingjun's last message to the love of her life. This became another famous idiom, the love of the South Garden. In fact, besides exterminating the Huo clan to avenge her, the other central mission of Liu Bingyi's life was how to protect and nurture Zhu Pingjun's son, the crown prince Liu Shi. Therefore, in choosing a new empress, Liu Bingyi decided he would choose a cautious and kind person from among the consorts who had not borne children, to serve as the new empress, and as the crown prince's adoptive mother, responsible for his upbringing. Against this backdrop, the unfavored childless Jieyu Wang was chosen. This was 65 BC. In that year, Jieyu Wang was likely not yet 25 years old. The histories, when writing of this, use a chilling phrase. After becoming empress, she was rarely seen and without favor. In other words, after she was enthroned, Liu Bingyi rarely favored her and seldom even saw her. This is understandable because what the emperor needed was not a beloved lover, nor even a cherished wife. He needed nothing more than a nanny in an empress's robes. Any deeper emotional investment could have led to a deviation from his goal. What if, for instance, Empress Wang had a son of her own? And so, from the moment she ascended to the throne, Empress Wang was destined for a life without affection and without children for the rest of her days. Mother-in-law? The histories do not record Empress Wang's reaction to this arrangement, nor are there detailed records of how she raised the crown prince. It is only recorded that after she became empress, her father, Wang Fengguang, was finally granted the title of Marquise of Chongcheng. For this reason, to distinguish her from several other empresses named Wang in Han history, she came to be known as Empress Chongcheng. Time passed. By 52 BC, the crown prince Liu Shi was a 23-year-old man. But at this time, his father, Liu Bingyi, still seemed to be in the prime of his life. Under his rule, the Han Empire was at the zenith of its power. Over the course of more than a decade of raising him, Empress Wang had surely formed a deep, affectionate bond with the crown prince. And so, she worried for her son. Not long before, the prince's favorite consort had died. Perhaps influenced by the fate of his own biological mother, the prince suspected his other consorts had cursed his beloved, and thus grew melancholic and resentful of them. As a result, he had yet to produce an heir. The situation became so serious that the emperor himself had to intervene. At Emperor Xuan's direction, Empress Wang carefully selected 5 ladies of good family, young court ladies of good birth, from her own palace, for the prince to choose a new consort. The prince was actually reluctant about this arrangement, but did not dare to directly refuse Empress Wang. Therefore, he said, "Just choose one, it doesn't matter," and pointed randomly at the court lady standing closest to him. It was a perfunctory gesture, but perhaps history is composed of many such accidents. This court lady he had pointed to, named Wang Zhengjun, would give birth to his son a year later, the empire's only imperial grandson at the time. And from that moment on, this Wang Zhengjun would rise from consort to Empress Dowager, to Grand Empress Dowager, holding a position in the rear palace for 61 years, the second longest reign for an empress in Chinese history. We have no way of knowing if Empress Wang was satisfied with this daughter-in-law. Judging from their lifespans, from the time Wang Zhengjun married the crown prince in 52 BC, the 2 women lived together in the palace for a full 36 years. When Wang Zhengjun was the crown princess, she was the empress. A few years later, Emperor Xuan died. The crown prince ascended the throne as Emperor Yuan, and Wang Zhengjun became the empress, while Empress Wang became the Empress Dowager. A dozen or so years after that, Emperor Yuan died. Wang Zhengjun's son became the new emperor. Wang Zhengjun became the Empress Dowager, and the former Empress Dowager became the Grand Empress Dowager. To distinguish between the two Empress Dowagers named Wang, from this time on, people began to call her the Gyeongcheng Empress Dowager, grandmother. In stark contrast to the profound political influence that the Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun would later have on Han politics, we can find almost no record of the Gyeongcheng Empress Dowager ever having any impact on the politics of the empire. Although her father, Wang Fengguang, had been made Marquis of Gyeongcheng the year she was enthroned, and after his death the title was passed down to his son and grandson, by her grandson's generation, the title was stripped due to a crime. Throughout this process, we see no record of the Gyeongcheng Empress Dowager intervening in any way. Either this happened after 16 BC, after her death, or the desireless Gyeongcheng Empress Dowager simply did not care about the fate of her maternal family's title. This stands in sharp contrast to the rampant power of the Consort clans throughout the Han Dynasty. In fact, when Emperor Yuan ascended the throne, to repay the Empress Dowager who had raised him, he made her older brother Wang Shun a marquis. When Emperor Yuan's son, Emperor Cheng, ascended the throne, the Gyeongcheng Empress Dowager, as his de facto grandmother, saw her family receive one more reward. Her younger brother, Wang Jun, was made a marquis within the passes, a title with no real power. Beyond this, the Wang family produced no more marquises or princes, nor did they ever produce a chancellor, a grand general, or a grand marshal who could control the government. Meanwhile, her daughter-in-law's family, the family of Wang Zhengjun, can be said to be the apex of consort clan power, the 5 marquises of a single clan. Perhaps this is why, after the Marquis of Gyeongcheng's title was stripped, it was the new Grand Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun who stepped in and designated a great-grandson of Wang Fengguang to re-inherit the title. Empress Wang's harmlessness had reached a point where everyone, it seems, felt a genuine desire to help her. Partner? As mentioned, during the reign of her adopted grandson, Emperor Cheng, in 16 BC, the Gyeongcheng Grand Empress Dowager, who had held a rear palace position for 49 years, passed away. By now, Emperor Xuan's tomb, Duling, had long been completed. Duling was built right next to the South Garden where Pingjun was buried, the place where Emperor Xuan had often played as a boy, and one of only 2 imperial tombs of the Han Dynasty located south of Chang'an. If he were to honor the promise of the love of the South Garden, Emperor Xuan should have ultimately chosen to be buried with the love of his life, Pingjun. But the fact is, the one who lies beside Liu Bingyi and Duling for eternity is Wang Fengguang's daughter, the Gyeongcheng Empress Wang. We do not know if this was Emperor Xuan's final wish or the will of her adopted son and grandson, Emperor Yuan and Emperor Cheng. But either way, this woman, who perhaps never knew the true love of her emperor in her entire life, finally, carrying the responsibility she had completed, became the most honored woman of her era in the eyes of the state. At the end of our video, we can only marvel at the life of Empress Wang. As a daughter, a friend, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a partner, she was perhaps not the most perfect in any of these roles, but fate gave her the role of Empress for nearly 50 years. And for that one role, she gave up almost everything else, and none of it was ever her choice.